Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever it is for you. I'm Cyclone. This is Let's Play Train Simulator. Now, I know you're noticing I already have a gold star on this. I tried to record this once already, and unfortunately, when I tried to record it, it didn't record. I had a recording of exactly 0 minutes, 0 seconds, so naturally it didn't work, and I have to try and do it again here. So as you can see, I didn't get 1,000 points on that one. I actually had a problem I'll talk about later. But anyway, we are doing the Midnight Magnet. You can see that I do have two versions. One is the regular 100-minute version. The other is my edited 110-minute version, which also I saw later actually change the train on the listing. Instead of the Sherman Hill ST70 UP, now it's the EMB ST70M Union Pacific. Okay, don't know what the difference is, but it changed the train on me. It's probably because it's no longer looking inside the bundles, looking at what is available on the game itself, not directly within the bundle. That might be why. But it's the exact same train. Nothing's different. Anyway, there were some edits I made to the Midnight Magnet scenario, and I'm going to go ahead and show you those, the edited version of the scenario, because I'm going to go ahead and upload this to the workshop. There's a couple of things also related to it that I learned from the previous attempt to record that have to be changed as well, so I'll talk about those as I go as well. But I've gone ahead and edited the scenario to a more reasonable playing. I will make this available in the Steam Workshop. For now, let's take a look at it, and I'll see you inside of the scenario. Dispatcher 3954, you are in charge of a special freight train carrying valuable goods which is due to arrive in Laramie around midnight. The police are showing special interest, and you've been ordered to bring along another engineer. Roger. Guess who that engineer is, by the way? If you're familiar with Sherman Hill at all, you know exactly who the engineer is. Let's finish putting the train together. These cars go on the back, then we need to run around to the front of this engine. Noted. So, we can't really see much right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and look at this, and I need to change some switches. So let's do that very quickly before I derail. Which is this one. I'm not going very fast right now. It's a bit dark in here. Put on the cab lights, would you? They're already on. So I'm going to go ahead and ride the brake while we're in the yard. So I just guess I should bump the speed up just a little bit more to compensate for the fact I'm riding the brake right now. I want to make sure I bring this thing to a stop at the appropriate time here. And just double check again that I don't derail myself. I should be fine. I'm giving myself some extra room. Not that I really need it, but why not? So I'm going to wait until my train backs up over this point right here. Once I get over that point, we are good to stop. I will slow down in the meantime. So we'll look at the guide of the tasks and all that stuff over there in a moment. I just want to get this part of attaching the train taken care of, because this is going to be the most, let's just say, active part of the scenario. The rest of us can be pretty sleepy once we get going. So you can see where I'm going. I gave myself lots of room here. So these three cars that are remaining are just going to come around here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and slow down completely now. The shutter switches are set to Cheyenne, receiving south, then move forward to a couple of these cars to the rest of the train. Gotcha. That's the only switch I had to set. I was going to wait for the engine to come to a full stop, and I'm going to go ahead and out the reverser in the meantime, move it forward. And there we go. So we're going to look at the front of the train now. Once I get onto the correct track, I will zip forward and I'll show you the view of the train coupling, because that's the part that's going to be interesting. it's a long way down the track that we're going to be going, so I'm not too worried about the speed right now coming into the track. I will be later on worried about the speed to make sure I slow down. Plus, I don't want to actually speed, obviously. Okay, let's go ahead and pop off the train now. I should be good, I believe. To go down here. Yep. So that's the end of the, this is the end of the train right here on the bottom right of your screen. That is what I'm connecting to, and we're going to go ahead and bring this sucker in. So riding the brake, as you can see, gives you a lot more control over what you're doing. And now I'm getting a little closer, so I'm going to slow down. Right off, please. So we're going to see the train come in a moment. When we do, we need to be going a little slower. So I'm going to maintain a little bit of throttle here for right now. This should be good to maintain. Here I come. Okay, let's take the speed completely off now. And let's put a little bit more back on so I can still back up. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to do. So we're going to go ahead and put the reverser in the other direction. Before I do any movement at this point, because I have to remember that the front of the engine is what is facing in this direction, I need to get to the front of this train. So we'll disconnect that. I will now move in the other direction. As you can see, you can get away a lot quicker when you don't have anything in front of you. We are in reverse. We are backing up. So this is the front of the engine right here. That's Tom and myself in the cabin. So we need to go over to the far track. The one on the far right there, that's the one we need to get over to. So we're going to have to get over to this point here. So I just need to get to one more track and then I can come to a full stop. That should do the job very nicely. Let's make sure my switches are set to the forward track. Like so. And forward march. And while I'm going forward, I'm going to turn the headlights on now that I can see what I'm doing. That should be the right setting, I believe. Maybe not. Slow down, please. Oh yeah, they're on. Okay, I didn't think it worked for a second, but they're on. We got the sun coming in. Coming up on a 20. By the time I reach it, I'm actually going to be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and check the switch at the end of the yard, which is where I need to make sure I'm not derailing myself. So I will move all the switches over to make sure I don't have a problem. So I have a full nice blue path. While I'm at it, let's zoom out and check my entry path into Laramie, which is going to be where we finish the scenario. We're going to be going into... Let's see, we're going to be going into this track, I believe. Yeah, I believe that's correct. So I'm going to center back on myself. We're at 15. I'm going to bump the speed up just slightly because we got a little ways to go here. So like I said, this is the most exciting part of the scenario. Get ready to fall asleep in a little while. Which is something I could use more of. I've only had about an hour of sleep last night before being woken up by a phone call, so I'm not in the best of moods today. But we're going to do what we can with this. My mood is further reduced by the fact this is my 4th time playing this scenario, 2nd time on this edited version. But again, we'll do what we can here. We'll make it work. So this train we're going by right now is not our train. The train that we want is actually going to be... let's do some counting here. The train I want is on that train right there. So it is the 5th track over from where we are now. That's what we're looking for. So we're going to count the tracks as we come along in the section following this, as we go under the highway here. We're going to check the count the number of tracks. So this is going to be the first track we cross right here. Bump the speed up just a little bit, but then I'm going to let it coast down for a moment, and hopefully we got enough to, that might have been too much. I'm going to have to reverse brake. Oh, that'll be fine. It's actually going to be good. Never mind. Thought I might need to reverse brake, but I actually put a tiny bit more back on, and then take it back off, and now I have to hold it. The 20 ends at the end of this particular track when we start merging over again. Now I'll take it off. And now I have to maintain. Okay, so let's count. There was 1, 2, 30. There's the 4th one. I'm going to start taking the speed down a little more. As we're on the 5th track now, I want to get to the 6th one because that'll mean I'm past the 5th one. So there we go. That should do, I believe. So the train I want to couple to is indeed this train right here in receiving south. I'm going to move the track back up. Oh, I'm not quite there, actually. I need to go one more. My mistake. My mistake. That's the one I want to connect to. And yep, I am the furthest train up there, so it should be the right one. Let's turn this back on, and I will reverse, and I'll start looking at the back of the train. I'm going to zip down the track to see what we're doing over here. Same thing as before. There's a nice crescent moon. So we could just take 5035, but no, that's not enough. I'm coming in way too fast. I actually don't like this. I don't like this at all. Let's make sure I have a little more brakes here. Okay, now I can come in. Okay, I need a little more. I did not mean to stop completely. Let's fix that. Job done. Forward, march. So we check our task list. Sure enough, we're now on our way out. We're on the correct train. 3/4 of a mile. We're on our way to our destination. So as you can see, I have not released the brake yet. The reason is I want to ride this brake a little ways. And once we get to a certain location, which is right around the point where we start getting into the 30, I'm going to go ahead and take the train brake off, and at that point I will let the train accelerate and coast on its own. Eventually we're going to get to a 55. When we get to the 55, at that point we're going to want to make sure that we get up to speed as quickly as we can, because we're not going to be able to maintain 55 throughout this scenario, that's for sure. And that's the part of this scenario that's completely broken. If you are familiar with other scenarios in this package, which you should be because we've run 4 of them already, but the last one is the one that really is of interest, because the last scenario is the same kind of run we did in the introduction to Sherman Hill, which is a 90-minute scenario, 90-minute scenario. The difference is that train doesn't fall apart, so we can actually finish it. And what I can tell you from that one, I'm not going to spoil too much about it, but what I can tell you is that the amount of time it takes you to do that scenario is the amount of time they give you to do this scenario once you couple the trains. You're given 20 minutes to couple the trains. I did it in 16 minutes. I did that part pretty well. But they give you 20 minutes to couple the trains, and then you have to get to Laramie in about 84 minutes. What they don't account for is that the speeds on this side of the hill are faster on the speed limit, but you have a steeper hill to get up, so you can't actually maintain that speed. If the 55 was on the 0.8 gradient on the Laramie side, then we'd be able to argue that with the slower speed on this side that yes, you can probably make it because you're going to be able to maintain close to 40 the whole way and be able to estimate based on the 40 in that case. But in this case, they don't give you enough time. So here's a couple things I did, and I'm going to probably change some of these back around again, but there's one I'm definitely going to be keeping or even increasing. As I get into the area, actually, you know, I'll do this once I get on the main track. Once I get on the main track, once I'm actually speeding up to 55 and I don't have to worry about my speed, I'm going to go ahead and show you that. So I will show you the timetable, but the one thing that's not changed is the 2250. I have not changed that. And hilariously, by the way, in the scenario editor, it's in red telling you this goal cannot be achieved, but I could achieve this goal repeatedly. So the scenario editor does not know anything about that particular goal, obviously. Not the best scenario editor, that's for sure. Thinks it can't be achieved because of some other reason. So we are on our way out of Cheyenne. The sun is back on our windshield. Or our dashboard, rather, not the windshield. That's the window. This seems like a powerful train for a normal freight run, and surely it would make more sense to run track number 3 rather than on number 1 and number 2. Something ain't right. Nope, something ain't right. Keep your guard up, dude. As you can see, we are clear for the main line. There are no other trains coming through, so we've just been given straight clearance here. Nothing else going on behind us on the main track. We lost a little speed slightly because we were on a 1.1 gradient. We were on a 0.3, now it's a 1.1. So we have to feather our speed a little bit more at this point. I am maintaining the brake for the time being, only because it gives me more control over the speed. And the more times you apply the brakes, as our gradient smooths out, I'll drop the throttle again. We're on a 0.8 gradient now. So as you use the brake in these trains more and more, you lose air out of the engines, and if you use all that air, you can't stop the train. So keeping the brake applied and powering through the brake can often be the way to survive in this kind of a train, so that you can always slow down whenever you need to. That brake application already exists, and you don't have to wait for 500 meters in order for the brake to activate and start slowing down the train, and then you don't stop in time. So keeping the brake on gives you more control over your speed. If you can figure out what throttle power to use at certain speeds, you know when you need to pull it off and you need to come to a stop. So you can control what you're doing, what your train does a lot more with the brake applied. But when you get in the areas where you're going 55 miles per hour, you definitely don't want that brake on. That slows you down. That definitely slows you down. wee bit. There we go. Oh, it's not enough apparently. Okay. So we are watching the 3 speed signs in our HUD here. The first one is a 20. Once the 20 gets to the back of the train, we will be in a 20 mile per hour zone. And this is the lunar red type setting here that we're going to be under. Shortly after that, the 35 will pass the back of our train. Once the 35 passes the back of our train, we will be in a 30 mile per hour. And you might be asking why I'm saying 30. Because we're going to be on a junction. The junction speed limit is 30 miles per hour. So the number that applies is always the lower of 2 possible speed limits. In this case, because we're going to be in the junction, 30 applies. 35 is the speed of the main line going through Cheyenne, which is why the 35 shows up there. And then we're going to come up on the 40, and then we're going to be going 40. I've already passed the 40, just the back of the train hasn't. And there's a 55 up ahead. That 55 sign will disappear early, so we're going to be in the 55 a lot earlier than we normally would expect to be. That sign is a little bugged. Probably should be closer to the signal is what I'm kind of guessing here. I'm actually watching the 55 sign in the front here, but I don't know if I've ever actually seen the 55 sign, which makes this even more interesting. Okay, apparently we're having a little more difficulty with the throttle now, which is refreshing. What I can tell you right now is that the train drive into Laramie from about the Hermosa area is going to be a little bit more boring. The rest of the scenario is going to pretty much be over at that point. So I might be doing some cutting at that point. We are in the 20s, so I am going to actually take the throttle off, or the brake rather off at this point and just rely on the throttle. So the brake is releasing. That means I'm now going to gain speed at 1 level throttle. For level 1 throttle, I am at a 30 mile per hour. I'm hearing that error very loud in my ears, so I apologize if I'm yelling, but it should be back to normal now. So I'm going to bump the speed up to level 3 throttle as we're coming into the 40 right now. We should be good for the 40 as soon as we cross into it. I'm going to actually bump the throttle up to 4 and maybe even 5. Losing a little more time than I wanted on that part of the journey. And now level 6. Why not? So there's our signal. Obviously we're green. We're going to be green for a little bit here. So I'm going to keep an eye on that signal because I'm looking for a 55 up ahead. And this 55 sign does not seem to be... was that it? I wonder if that was it. That might have been the 55 sign. So the sign is way further ahead on the track than it should be, if that's the case. And if that's the case, then we want to watch for the signal to disappear in the HUD, because the 55 will probably vanish shortly after that, if not earlier. Right now I'm going to maintain 40. There's no reason to speed beyond 40 right now, which means I'm going to take the throttle off a little bit so I don't go too fast. So I have to maintain 40 until the end until the start of the 55 that I'm allowed to go into. So I'm watching that 55. It's under my 100% reverser right now. It's about to move over to where my throttle is at 50. I need to take the gas off completely at this point, because I'm at exactly 40. I have a mile per hour buffer, but I don't want to abuse that. The signal has disappeared, and if I saw that sign correctly, this 55 is going to disappear about now. There it goes. That was close. So you move up to 100% throttle. Let's take a look at our route while we're doing this. We're going to be going to Borie. As you can see, the next stop, the next timetable item, I'm at 300 points by the way. The next timetable item is at milepost 526 at 2317. I gave a couple minutes buffer on that because that was originally 2315. It turns out I was so early I probably don't need the buffer there, so I might put that back to 2315. After that, the next thing that we have for timetable is 2346 at Dale Junction, Main 1 East. That was originally 2343. Again, this is makeable at 2343, but given that I know how this scenario operates, I've given a couple minutes buffer in case people get to the first checkpoint at 10:50, at 11:50, or 10:50 exactly. So I've given a little bit of a buffer just in case someone is slow on that. And the next thing after that is Laramie, which I currently have an additional 10 minutes for. It was originally 14 minutes after, but that's impossible. You can't do that. I don't care how early you are, you can't do that. If you can do that, then you are a god. The only way to do it is by speeding, and the only way you can do that is by taking off a speeding penalty and then speeding. Not going to happen. So I think when they did the timings on that side of the hill, they assumed that it was 55 on that side of the hill. It is not 55 on that side of the hill. It is not even 45 on that side of the hill. It is 40 the entire way. You cannot speed past 40 the entire way. And you're losing time the entire trip. So you cannot make 12-14. And unfortunately, Dovetail games can't be arsed to fix it. Half-arsed to fix it. So if they're not going to fix it, all I can do is release a workshop version of the scenario and try and spread word that it's out there. And then people can play that one instead. So I cloned everything in the scenario. It's the exact clone of the scenario. I've just changed the timings. And that's really all I've done. So we are on a 1.0 gradient right now. We are going to get close to 55. We might even hit 55. But we're probably not going to go past 55. We have a green signal to proceed at line speed. We're coming up on Wycon, the fertilizer plant. Now, as you can see, we are on track number 2. We're not going to be staying on this track. We have to go over to track number 1. Because that is the way you would normally go on this route. Travel over to track number 1. So a couple trains were routed over to track number 2, or track number 1 to make way for us. Because this is a high value shipment. And we're going to make our way over where there's a gap in the traffic. We are maintaining a 1.0% gradient right now. I'm waiting for it to shift to a 1.5 further ahead, because that will be the maximum uphill we're going to get on this journey, and we're not going to be able to maintain 55 speed limit on that 1.5. We're not even going to be able to get up to 55 speed limit on that 1.5. So I am keeping an eye on the gradient. I'm going to actually hide this. Headlights only work so far. We don't have high beams on these trains, unfortunately. I can confirm for you that the lights do work. We are looking at them. There we go. Headlights do work. And the HUD just shifted a little bit, so it's bringing in another element of the hill. It moved me down. Maximum elevation, I believe, is 8,015 feet, and we're at a 1.5 gradient now, as I expected. So we are going to be sitting at 54.3, but it is going to be going down from there. We're probably not going to increase. I am at max power. There's nothing else I can do to increase power. I can't go to another engine and say, hey, give me a boost. Technically, they're already giving us a boost. We are going to lose speed this entire way now, and to make matters... Hold on a second. What is ahead? We have a signal coming up. I can't see it yet. Because it's nighttime, I've armed myself with a pair of binoculars to see the lights in the distance. What am I kidding? I always have binoculars with me. They're handy. Binoculars are very handy. There is a flashing yellow. That means we're going to be diverging tracks in a moment. At least in this scenario, that's what it means. That means I have to lower my speed to 30 by the time I get to that track. But for right now, I'm going to maintain speed. There's no reason to lower it yet. The next signal is quite a ways away. In fact, by the time the signal gets to the back of the train, I'm going to have to... Tell you what, I will lower a little bit now just to be safe. Because that's a destination point ahead. That way the uphill can slow us down without us having to use the brakes, and there is the signal. So I am going to actually ease the speed off a little more. Because I need to try to lower my speed enough by the time I get to that signal. Which means I'm actually going to have to ease it off completely at this point. Yep, throttle right off. That'll do. I'm not going to slow down in time now that I think about it. Am I? I'm going to put a little bit of a brake application just to be safe. I have to get down to 30, which is why I put the brakes on. Go ahead and maintain speed at this point. Throttle should do the job. Level 1 throttle is perfectly fine right now. I am now at the target speed. So I gave myself a little bit of extra time before we got to that signal. That's the best we can do in this scenario. And getting up to speed is going to be very, very hard from here forward. So there's our junction change. As you can see, we are now under a 30 mile per hour speed restriction. And the fun and activities are about to start. So you're going to see a little bit of a dip in the speed in a moment here. And then you're going to see the next change I made in the scenario. There's one more I have to make as well. You're going to see it in this one, unfortunately. So we are going to make our way past this Borie Main 1 West marker on the HUD right now. We're actually losing speed at level 3 throttle. There you go. So the light just lit up on the right here. That is the wheel slip light. That means our wheels are slipping. I'm taking the throttle off for a moment. We seem to be experiencing some wheel slip. You said it, Tom. Wheel slip light is off, so I'm going to put the throttle back up. And I did not actually take a drive quality penalty there. Usually I expect to see a drive quality penalty, but it looks like because I took the throttle off, that actually took out the penalty. So last time I ran this, I got a -31 drive quality penalty. I did not get it this time. So if you have wheel slip, you want to take the throttle completely off and just let the train coast. That'll give you less of a penalty in that case because you're not applying throttle to the wheel and your wheel isn't slipping. So that helps you with wheel slip. We're at 55 now, so I'm going to throttle completely back up. So you may have noticed I wasn't getting any wheel slip penalties even with the wheel going. Even while I still had the throttle on, I was not getting wheel slip penalties. The reason is because this is a storyline situation, and the moment you hit that thing that's on the track, that marker, the moment you hit that trigger, you are going to immediately lose points. It's not fair to the player who is playing blind and does not know that that is there to have to accept a point loss like that. So I have actually removed the wheel slip penalty from the scenario. And keep in mind, this is a copy. This is not on the official file. This is a copy. I removed the wheel slip from my version of the scenario. The drive quality penalty will still trigger, and I was actually going to remove that, but now that I see I didn't trigger that, now you see that there's a way you can avoid triggering that. So we're going to leave that in, so that if you try to power through the oil, you just power through the trigger. Now I've already spoiled this oil. If you power through the trigger, then you lose points for your quality of driving because you're trying to drive in a dangerous situation. You're trying to throttle in a dangerous situation. So now that we've got a recording of that, that's interesting. Very, very interesting. I think you can reduce some wheel slip penalties with the same thing, but like I said, it's not fair to expect the player to know that's there when they're playing blind. It sure took me by surprise the first time I saw it, and I'm like, why did I lose 100 points? There's no reason to lose 100 points. We're coming up on a 45-mile-per-hour speed limit now, so I am only at 38 right now. Conveniently, I'm going to not be at 45 by the time I reach the 45, but I'm going to have to throttle down by the time I get there, or I will go beyond that, possibly. So we're going to keep an eye on my speed as it increases and see what happens here. After Buford, we will reach the highest point. At that point, I will want to ease back on the throttle at highest point, and I will want to apply a brake application, potentially. I might be able to get away without it, but I'm probably going to need it. And that brake application is going to result in us having, again, more control of our speed like we did in the yard at Cheyenne. So the path we're taking right now is the same path that we took out of Granite, or to Granite earlier in the third scenario. Now keep in mind I filmed that one about a month ago, so I'm already well beyond that scenario, and I still have a good memory of it because this is my first career scenario. So I still remember very well that the trick that I came up with at Ycon to allow you to couple safely to the train, as long as you don't do it in an erratic manner where you go forward, back, because you lose some points for your drive quality on that. But I came up with that trick at Ycon where you don't even apply throttle, you just slide backwards and let the train couple. And I'm pretty proud of that one. I am pretty proud of that one. I will be honest with you, because it gives you a lot more control of your train. Dispatcher 3954, we have police reports of people running from the vicinity of Borie. Did you notice anything strange? Yes, dispatch. I noticed that there was some oil, or at least some wheel slip on the track, some wheel slip. And we don't know what the cause of that was. Over. So yeah, I'll talk about Ycon again in a second. Want to hear back from dispatch. Wheel slip on this clear night. That should be a question mark. Yes, that sounds suspicious. Well done for keeping your nerve. I will inform the police. Roger. So we are at a 45. We don't want to make sure we don't speed. I'm only at 43.5 right now. So yeah, the reason I came up with that trick at Ycon, now that we're past that scenario and I can actually talk about this, the reason I came up with that trick at Ycon is because when I originally put the throttle into reverse, or I think it was reverse. Yeah, when I first put the throttle in reverse and tried to speed towards the train, it was hard to come to a stop because I was on an incline. And then I realized that one time when I went to stop and I hadn't moved the reverser back yet, I just suddenly noticed, why is my train moving? And I actually brought it to a stop with the brakes, and then I thought, oh, I can use this. So as soon as I realized I could couple the back of the train, and then it would still continue backing towards the signal on its own without me applying any power, I'm like, yeah, I'm using that. I am definitely using that. So it's a good way to manage yourself coming out of the yard. You just have to make sure that when you actually get to the signal and you actually are going 15, you actually maintain, at that point you need to put the brakes on and maintain control, because then you're going to have to get ready to stop at the reversing point anyway. At that point it makes sense to apply the brakes. So a little bit of a trick there, and I hope you enjoyed that trick, and I hope you can use that trick in other places. And I will be looking for other places where I can use that trick where it's not too steep. If it's really steep, I'm just going to use the brakes. So right now we are maintaining speed limit. We are okay for the time being. And as you can see, our time is we're still losing a small amount of time here. But our timing so far is pretty steady. We have to be at the milepost at 23:17. We have, originally it was 23:14, and you can see why. We're only 2 miles away. And we got a lot of time to do that. So we are going to make that before 23:14, I believe. Or 23:15, I meant to say. We will make that, I think, before 23:15. But we're losing time on our ETA. You can see that that just keeps going up. My teeth are a little sore today. That's kind of unusual. Anyway. So we are coming up upon another 55 sign here. I think we're passing under the highway at this point. Kind of hard to see in the dark. But let's just take a quick look outside. That is indeed the highway. Yep, that's a 2-lane highway. That's the interstate. Interstate 80 goes through this part of Wyoming. In the southeast corner of the state. See, no point to having this 55 for us right now because we're not going to reach it. We're just hovering at 45 and a half. We're super early. Yeah, I'm going to actually take that restriction off when I publish the scenario. I'm going to actually move it back to where it originally was because I've proved that you can make this in plenty of time. So I'm going to leave that one as it is in the original timing. And I might even have to change another buffer that I applied in a moment as well. We'll see when we get to that point. Laramie, though, does have to be bumped up for sure. So yeah, we haven't even reached past 45 yet. Now we're in a 55, so we're good to go. Dispatch to 3954. There is a fire at Granite interlocking. I'm going to hold you the proceeding signal until I have confirmation of the severity. The police found oil on the tracks at Borie. That would have caused your wheel slip. Yeah, we have some serious problems with English in this game. I'll see if I can make those corrections on my version. I just left those in to show you how bad the English was in this game. There are so many English and grammar errors, spelling and grammar errors in this game that it is just despicable. I can't believe how many there are. So he says it's going to hold us at the next signal. Let's see what the report is on that. I don't necessarily trust that yet because there's suspicious activity going on. And I don't think that's a good idea. 3954, this is dispatch. I just had the police on the radio. They say the fire is a diversionary tactic to get you to stop. And they have a car at Granite already. I am not going to stop you after all. In fact, the police recommend you don't stop at all on the way to Laramie. I will get more information. Roger. I'll lower the throttle just a little bit so we can take a nice good look at this when we go through. Since we are super early for some of our timings here, I want to lower the throttle just a little to give you a look. You can see it right there in the distance. Actually, that's a sign. That's a sign. Never mind. We see nothing yet. I'm looking for the signal. I don't see it yet. In fact, just to make sure everything is safe up ahead, I am going to lower the speed a little more. Just because I am early, I don't know. There is the fire. Just because I am early, I don't know what the signal ahead is going to say yet. That isn't all. No, that's a green. Okay, I read it wrong. Never mind. We can go full throttle. We're fine to go at line speed. So we're going to increase back to 100% throttle. But you're going to get a nice good look at this fire right now. Headlights, nice. All I can say is that poor car. That's all I can say. Surprised it hasn't exploded by now. It looks like it's just fine in that fire. Yeah, because I took the wheel slip penalty out of the scenario, so far I'm maintaining a perfect score because of that. And again, this is in no way about maintaining a perfect score. Obviously, it's ideal to do so. I'm speeding now. There's a 45. I didn't even notice that. Talking about maintaining a perfect score. Let's get the speed down. Down, please. Thank you. I did not even see the 45 sign because I was paying attention to the fire. Oh well, 36 points lost. So much for a perfect score. I was maintaining a perfect score. That's the wheel slip penalty coming back to haunt me right now. That's the wheel slip being returned to me. 55 coming up right after that. I was having trouble holding 45 earlier, so I'm surprised I actually was able to get to past 45. Full throttle again. There's a fire up ahead, by the way. So yeah, as I jinxed myself, I did take the wheel slip penalty out. For that reason, I was maintaining a perfect score until I was speeding, which means I'm no longer maintaining a perfect score. But again, they gave you 1,200 points in this scenario, so assuming that the timing was correct for Laramie, oh wow. Assuming that the Laramie timing had been correct, you could have still gotten a perfect score on this scenario. It was still possible. Just the way that they set up the timing at Laramie to make it impossible to get to, there's nothing you can do. Absolutely nothing you can do. Now, I've been very, very early so far, so I'd be surprised if I actually do pull off for Laramie timing, but we'll know by Hermosa if that's going to be possible or not. And I'm going to say it isn't. The 10-minute buffer should be plenty, but last time I did this, I ran my version of the scenario, I actually did find that the scenario seemed to bug on the actual arrival time, because I went to stop, it showed that I was late by 118 seconds, and as far as I knew, I was right on time. Now, I might have not been paying attention to the time for a couple minutes, that is possible. So I'm just going to have to make sure I pay attention to the time when I get in there to this particular run. We're about to enter into a 55 with the back of our train, so at that point we can... Well, I'm already at 100% throttle, I can't maintain 44, so I don't know how I was speeding earlier. But I'm not speeding now, so I don't know how I was speeding earlier. Gradient must have shifted just a little bit to a 1.2 or a 1.0, and then I went back to a 1.5, so it must have been a little bit of a change there. We are now under effect of the 55. So we've had 2 little cases of excitement. Can we get more? Well, I already spoiled this. A bit sleepy after Hermosa. The reason it's a bit sleepy after Hermosa, and I know that, is because you look at the schedule and you can see there's nothing between Hermosa and Laramie, which is an 18-mile drive. So, yeah. That 18-mile drive is almost what is a little over 1/4 of our entire journey. So yeah, we're going to have a little bit of a sleepy drive ahead here, and I'm going to probably try and cut some of that to make it easier for you guys. Because you're going to see, it's not really fun to see this route at night. And I don't want to force you guys to sit here and watch a video where you're just seeing half an hour of driving in darkness and me talking nonsense. Because there's not really much to talk about at that point. For right now, we're going to leave it up because we are still going to see some action for the time being, and I don't want you to miss the action. In this case, our next occurrence is at milepost 534. It's still 2 miles away, so we are a little bit away from that occurrence, and because that's a milepost, I think something is happening there. I don't usually see a checkpoint on a milepost unless something is happening from this particular DLC. I don't know why that is. Even in Introduction to Sherman Hill, the milepost checkpoints for history lessons. So there you go. I know I said this before as well, I'm not going to edit out things like that speed penalty because no one's ever perfect. Everyone makes mistakes, even the best drivers make mistakes, so I'm not ashamed for having a little mistake like that happen. I was speeding for 18 seconds, big deal. Maybe double yellow. So we're actually getting this double yellow before we get whatever the prompt says we need to do. I think I have an idea what's going to happen. I'm going to lower some speed here. That could mean that we're changing tracks. I'm surprised that the signaler knows this before he actually tells us about it. So he must have gotten some information while we were waiting. And I suspect we are changing tracks. Now, I do know what it is, I'm just not telling you. We're going to go with the storyline here. So we believe the signaler may have gotten some information. He is preparing a track change. Here it is. 3954, this is dispatch. The police have apprehended a gang at Buford. they got wind of the goods you are hauling and were trying to get you to stop so they could break into the cars. Noted. That's actually not... That's not related to the double yellow. I don't know what's going on with the double yellow yet. So we're going to find out, I'm sure, in a moment. I thought he would have told us right there while talking about the gate at Buford. Their latest attempt was running a stolen mail van onto the line at Buford. Okay, it was about the double yellow. I'm going to route you onto a different track through Buford while the police clear it. Good thing I slowed down a little bit. So I'm at 38 right now. I'm going to go ahead and maintain speed at 38 right now until I see the signal come into the peripheral of the HUD. And after it comes up a little bit closer, I'm going to go ahead and reduce the speed again, because the uphill is going to do a good job slowing us down. I'm not too concerned about speeding past the signal into the junction. I didn't even get to 38. I'm just staying at 37 right now. Half of my throttle is in use. If I were to go to 100, it would go up, so there's no point going up right now. I'm just going to maintain where I am. And let's lower it a little bit now. And let's see how the decrease happens at a quarter throttle right now. It's not going to be enough, so I'm going to drop it down to a 1/8 of a throttle. Knowing how the uphill, and I'm on a 0.8 gradient by the way, so I probably should take the throttle completely off. But 1/8 seems to be okay for the time being to hold me. I should be down to 31 by the time I get to that sign. And I can drop into the 30s from there. I might not quite make it. I might have to... Oh no, I'm fine. I'm fine. What am I worried about? I'm fine. This is fine, said the cat. Gonna bump up to a 25 throttle for a moment to just boost myself up to the sign. And I'm actually over speed limit still, so I need to lower it back down. So let's, now that I know how I'm responding on a 0.8% gradient, let's see what happens if we go back to 25 now. I'm increasing speed a little too fast, so we're not going to do that. So we're coming up to the signal now as we make this left turn. And here's the junction change. And we're going to probably see a stolen mail van on the track coming up. So again, until the entire train is out of the junction, we cannot speed up again. We know the limit is 55. But right now we're under a 30, we have to stay under a 30. So I'm going to go ahead and increase speed again. I don't want to necessarily drop too far below the junction speed. We're going to arrive at Buford West number 2 at 28 minutes after. But that is slowly going slow, getting slower and slower, getting further behind. There's a 55 sign up ahead, but we're going to be back under, I'm guessing, a 45 since there's a 55 ahead. By the time we get to the highest point, we will probably be looking at a 40 speed limit. In fact, I think it's right after this 55 that the 40 shows up, so we're not actually going to have a chance to try to roar back up to 55. We're not going to get that chance. Only once on the entire journey will we be able to do that. Coming up a little too fast there, so I'm going to go ahead and maintain. And back on. And 30 is apparently our effective speed limit as well, so there you go. 30 is the limit in this area, which is not normal on the other direction, but oh well. Opposite track working, I guess. There is the previously forecast 40. So we knew that's coming up. There's the stolen mail van. make your jokes here about how the mail got delayed. I will appreciate that. So we're crossing into a 55 speed limit area right now. We're not going to be under the 55 speed limit, however, because by the time we get to the 40, the 55 will not yet be at the back of our train. And this is the case where the lower of two numbers applies. We're going to go straight down to 40. If it were a slightly faster train, we could speed up, but again, it's only not even a mile, I don't think. So there's no point even speeding up to 55. There's no point having that 55 there. It's just because of the whole junction situation that we had to go down to 30 in the first place. I don't think it would have otherwise been our effective speed on that track. But again, maybe I'm forgetting, maybe there's a 30 there that I'm forgetting about. I just don't believe there is. I believe I showed you this train in the fourth scenario, so I'm not going over the whole train again. I still don't know what this is supposed to do. I'm sure in the if Armstrong Powerhouse has a version of this train, they might address that, but I don't think they usually do American trains. They usually do European trains, so I don't think they're going to address this one anyway. But if they were to work on this train, I guarantee they'd find a way to make that meter useful. So the 55 sign just passed the back of our train. That means that because we're now in the 40 on the front of the train, we are now under a 40 mile per hour speed restriction. I will go ahead and I will increase the speed at this point because we do have to still try to make our timings. So I will bring us up to about 37, 38-ish, but I think we have a downhill right after this. Keeping an eye on the right side of the HUD right now, because we are going to have a downhill before we have another uphill, and that will take us into Hermosa, where it's downhill all the way to Laramie. Taking throttle back to 25, and I'm still gaining speed, so I'm going to drop to 12 for a moment, and I'm going to take it right off. There we go. Oh, apparently our gradient has really smoothed out, because we are actually maintaining speed at a level 1 throttle right now. Fantastic. So remember Tom's concerns about why we were taking this track instead of the number 3 track? I think the reason has become clear. There are parts of the number 3 track where you are only on the one track. There's no other way. You have to come to a stop and let the thieves do their work. So we were routed correctly on this scenario. We know for a fact that we were routed correctly on this scenario now. As I notice some dust under my desk, and I'm kicking that away now. I hadn't noticed that for a long time, but now that I'm starting to use the dust more again, I'm starting to notice that dust here a lot more often. I don't understand why. Anyway, enough about dust. Ah, 45. That's where the uphill is going to be ending, and we're going to start getting it downhill. So we're okay maintaining speed around this 40 right now. I'm going to actually put a brake application in as we start on the downhill. That'll allow us to control our speed a little better. I'll try to maintain that when we get to the uphill later on, but I may have to take the brakes back off. We're going to find out later. Our gradient maintained right now is a 0.8 uphill gradient. And we will have successfully completed the climb to the highest point on Sherman Hill and on the Transcontinental Railroad, coincidentally enough. I could have done a label, by the way, and actually taken a look to see what that train is, but there it is. It's the eastbound stack. There you go. Throttle off, because we're still in the 40, and for that reason I'm actually going to take the throttle completely off so that we don't have any problems on this downhill for speeding. I have to maintain a limit of 40 until the back of the train crosses that 45, and we're going to be on the downhill gaining speed at that point. So reducing speed a little bit is the safest bet here. And I'm going to try to keep an eye on when the speed starts increasing on the downhill without any throttle. That is the part at which I'm going to want to apply the brake. And then I'll power through the brake at that point. We are starting to slightly increase now. Let's go ahead and put that to a 0, not a -4 or a -1, a 0. So we're not going to be gaining speed on the downhill quite yet. The reason for that is because we still have some cars on the uphill. So the hill is trying to pull us down, but it's not going to get very far. We are moving along ourselves, so we are still going to be a split train going in 2 directions here if we were to stop, and uncouple it, which we're not going to do, obviously, because that's an op error. And that's minus 500 points. We're not going to do that. So we're coming into the 45 now, and we're starting to gain speed, so I'm okay with this situation right now. We can gain speed. In fact, I'm going to put the throttle on for a moment so we can get a little bit faster here. But after we get to 40, I'm going to take it back off, and I'll see how we do on the downhill without throttle. Because we are now on a 0.8 gradient downhill, just like we were uphill earlier. And now I'll take the throttle off. That 39 is good enough for me right now for testing purposes. As you see, I am gaining speed. I'm going to let it go to about 42, 43, and then I'll go ahead and I'll apply a brake so we can maintain some speed control here. When I apply the brakes, I'll shortly thereafter apply a speed boost to the throttle to power through the brakes. In fact, there's a 40 coming up, so I am going to have to apply the brakes anyway at this point. I mean, that means I'm not even going to worry about a speed boost. I'm just going to go ahead and apply the brakes. So let's do it right now just for safety's sake. And this means I will now maintain control over my speed going into this 40. So I'm going to put a little bit of throttle on so I can come up to the sign. We're coming up to Dale. After Dale, we're going to get to Hermosa. Dale is our next time check as well. The time check is over here. And that is 3 miles away. So we are going to be super early for this time check. This might be the first time I have a chance to come close to the original Laramie time. But I still don't think it's possible, but it's the first time I'm going to get actually really close to it. This is my 4th run at this scenario, keep in mind. And I am very convinced, based on those results, that we can't make the Laramie time, but the original Laramie time. But we're going to find out. I'm really pushing my chances on this one. Keep in mind the original timing for Dale Junction Main 1 East, the original time was 23:43. So I have technically 8 minutes to get there. Is that a junction? That's a junction speed. I need a lower, lower, lower. Caught it a little too late. I caught it a little too late. I'm going to lose more points here. That is a massive speeding penalty. That is a massive, massive speeding penalty. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is a massive speeding penalty. You do not want to do that. I did not realize that we were going to have a junction. I must have missed a double yellow somewhere telling me to slow down. Because that would have alerted me that we were changing back onto the other track. And I did not notice that there was that coming up. So that's possibly a huge faux pas on my part. But because I've lost that many points, I only have a 14-point buffer to my perfect score now. So don't do what I just did there. Do not do what I just did. I forgot that was a junction. 3954, this is dispatch again. One of the gangs confessed that another car of robbers is waiting at the Laramie side of the Hermosa tunnel. Police are on their way. Stand by. Roger. My, that was probably the worst speeding penalty I've had in a long time. I don't remember one as bad as that in the last little while. Last time I had one that bad, I think it was a trial run of a scenario in suburban Glasgow where I first was learning the speed limits of the line and how the train operated. And that was the last time I had a speed penalty like that. And keep in mind, I have played the London to Brighton route already, so I am counting that in here. You're just not seeing that yet. And I know I've had the odd speed penalty there too. But it's a lot harder to make that speed penalty because that train comes, or on that route, because that train drives beautifully. You're going to see a 377 on that route. Beautiful train. I love driving that thing. The brakes respond almost instantaneously on that train, and you're going to slow down in a hurry if you need to. So I enjoy driving that. You will see that when I get to London and Brighton. Which is 2 scenarios from now, unless I throw in a bonus scenario, which I very well might do that. We'll see. I have some workshop content for this route, so I may very well do that. On a different subject, because this is a fixed scenario that I made some edits to, and I'm going to, again, check my edits on Laramie when I get closer to Laramie, but because this is again going to be a fixed scenario, I'm going to see if I can have this added to Railfan's fixed scenario collection. I know he's been doing his own set of fixed scenarios, but I'm going to see if I can have this one added to the collection, because this would be one to include. Wow, I'm losing speed at, I know I still have the brakes applied, but I thought I would still be gaining speed because I'm still on the downhill. I am coming into the uphill now, so I'm going to go ahead and put the throttle back into full for a moment. I'm going to see if I can power through this brake on this particular uphill, or if I need to remove it completely. And it looks like I might need to remove it completely, because I am losing speed at this point. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and remove the brakes and move the throttle back down to about 50%. We're going to see what the train does. We are gaining speed. Let's drop a little more, just to make sure I can find the proper uphill speed here. Fun fact, by the way, if I had that drive quality penalty that I had the previous run, I would not have had a perfect score possible anymore. Not that a perfect score is a big deal, I just like to get it. Look at that. Emergency brake. That always gets me off guard every time it happens. Even though I've seen it 3 times before this. Dispatcher 3954, do you have a problem? No, duh, I have a problem. So we're coming to a stop at this random part of the Dale Junction main track. Looks like a fault with the brakes. When the train stops, I'll go quickly and take a look. Don't worry, I'll be fine. I'm going to piss them off right now. We're going to go anyway. Maybe not. Yeah, he'll be fine. Don't worry about him. He'll be fine. He's already gotten back here. He just hasn't said anything yet. My brake hose got disconnected somehow. I fixed it. Let's get moving. Already on it. You didn't notice you were riding along under the engine? The only reason I took the speed off is just in case you can get him upset. So I just cut it down to make sure we weren't going too fast. I wanted to make sure we didn't go backwards down the hill. That's the main thing I wanted to make sure we did there. I did not want to go backwards down that hill. Because the brake released completely. And needless to say, that's not a pretty situation. So as for our current location, no, we're not in Cheyenne. We're all the way over here. We are on the part where the number 3 track will eventually veer off again over there. But it's still a little ways before that happens, as you can see. So we are coming up to the Hermosa Main 1 East right now. That is supposedly about 4 minutes away, but that's going to change. 4.5 minutes. That'll change. There's the Hermosa Tunnel coming up. I should probably go up to that view now. Probably don't want to look at the dashboard. You probably want to see outside, don't you? Now you want to see all this beautiful black outside. You see a few rocks, that's about it. We're coming up on the downhill, so I'm going to take the throttle off and actually let myself drop a little bit in this tunnel, because we are going to gain speed, I believe, in this tunnel, and then we're going to have to use a brake application again. And that brake application will be applied all the way into Laramie, so I'm hoping we've got enough air by the time we get into Laramie, or by the time we get onto this hill, because I am going to have to apply that brake again. I'm a little concerned about our air situation right now. That emergency brake is going to be one of those testing things here. Theoretically, it takes 10 minutes to refill the air. I've only given it about 3. We are now entering the tunnel. Actually, no, we're exiting the tunnel. We were in the tunnel. So we are exiting the tunnel. We are coming up on Hermosa Main 1 East. We are still losing speed because the back of our train is not on the downhill yet. But it looks like we might be gaining now. So I'm going to maintain speed for a moment. I will keep you with me while I get the train set up for this downhill. But that's going to be the same for 18 miles. So I'll probably cut off a little bit in the middle of this so you don't have to watch all this. Wow! Yeah, that track's bumpy. I don't know if that's normal, but Dispatch 3954, glad you got moving again so soon. The police have caught the last of the gang at Hermosa. You should be okay now until Laramie. Good work. Roger. This is the point in real life where you start to gloat about how you did a good job. So I'm giving as much time as I can until I actually have to apply the brakes and test the air reserves. I only need a little bit, so I should be fine by the time I need it. As you see, I have no throttle on right now. I'm just driving. Those reds are on the other track. And now I'll apply that brake application and power through it. So now I've got control of my speed. Getting up to 50% now. I'm running 38. I do want to get a little closer to 40, so I'm going to try to increase. But as you can see, the increase is minimal right now. And that's what I want to do. So it's 0.8 all the way into Laramie. So I'm going to take this moment to say, now that we're on the more boring part of the journey and there's not much else to show at this point, I want to take this moment to say, if you do like what you're seeing here, make sure you do like this video and subscribe to the channel. Both of those things help me out. It gets me more visibility, and I appreciate you joining me for this lovely nighttime ride today at about 11 in the morning, my actual time. Not a time I normally am driving trains, but I was woken up a bit early by a phone call, and I need to do something to get my mind to keep my mind awake, since I need to reset my sleep schedule anyway, so I'm trying to do that now. Only got an hour of sleep. I'm a little annoyed by that. But anyway, we are going to continue this drive from Laramie. It's pretty boring from here forward. I'm going to be feathering between 50 and 37% throttle for the rest of the way, and I'm going to eventually make my way into Laramie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at that 16 miles down the road. It's going a little faster than you would expect here. I will talk about a couple things here. Obviously, this is the second route I'm showing on the channel. And I do a Battle for Sherman Hill. There's a lot of trains that are involved in the Battle for Sherman Hill DLC. So by the time I actually get to the scenario pack that comes with Battle for Sherman Hill, I'm literally going to be looking at, God goodness knows how many trains that are going to be coming up in the scenarios for that pack. There are 7 that come with it, so I assume most of them are going to get used at least on the route, if not, and I'm sure we're going to have to drive the steam ones at some point, the diesel at some point. So all the different trains are going to get used, I'm sure, in some way on the scenarios. The scenarios are created by the Gary, the guy from High Iron Simulations, who published all the free scenarios in the workshop, and he does the, there's a eastbound something. Let's see what that is. Eastbound mixed. And I'm getting my own label as well, which is not exactly what I want to do. Yeah, I got my own label too. There you go. So it's eastbound mixed. So yeah, he created all the scenarios in that pack, and I am looking forward to trying those scenarios. But I have a lot. I have to introduce all of those trains at some point on this channel, and some of the trains use other American routes for their own scenarios. For example, Donner Pass is needed for one of the trains. Cahoon Pass, which was the one that absolutely concerned me, because I did not think there was a way for me to get that, but I was lucky. I found a key for Train Simulator 2012, and I've unlocked the fictional routes as well. So you're going to actually get to see the fictional routes on this channel as well. And I'm very pleased about that development. So Cahoon Pass is part of that collection. There are no BNSF trains in that particular collection, unfortunately, so I still don't have a BNSF model. You have to get the earliest version of the game for that, and that was going for like $100. There's no way I was doing that, knowing it might not work. So, and that's just ridiculous anyway. It doesn't matter what the age of it is or how historic it is. Just ridiculous. They're taking advantage of people who can't get BNSF nowadays by that, so it's just ridiculous. In any case, I will be showing off the various trains. I mentioned Donner Pass, Cahoon Pass. There's also Soldier Summit, which was also part of a 2019 key, along with Salt Lake City extension, and I did get the 2019 key, so I do have those. I am looking at a 2015 key through another source. I don't know if it's a reputable source. I don't want to name them, but they do also have an FL9 key, and it might be cheaper for me to do it that way than to get it on Steam. So I'm going to look into that and see if that's a possibility. I don't know for sure yet. So we're going to have to find out as time goes on. And then the other trains that come with the pack, and of course there's also the ST60, which I'm going to have to introduce as well. So I want to actually do, I think I want to do London to Brighton first, and then I'm going to come back and introduce the ST60 at some point in the future. because there are only 3 scenarios that go with it. So we're going to have a 3 scenario stint back here at Sherman Hill. And I might then bring out another train that requires Sherman Hill. So that way I can get a couple trains introduced at the same time on Sherman Hill through their scenarios. But I want to definitely visit Donner Pass and Soldier Summit probably before I introduce those trains. So the SC60M and the gas turbine actually has about 15 scenarios. So I'm going to probably do that one in stints. I'm not going to do that one all at once like I do with these other ones. Something that long I'm going to do in stints. London to Brighton might be the exception. I may take that one to 8, and then I may pause that one and head back to Donner Pass. As I play this, 6 of those scenarios are done. So as I'm playing this right now in this recording, I've done 6 of the suburban Glasgow plus a workshop one that I needed to include for the last station. If you haven't seen that yet, you can go back and see that. After the Storm, great scenario by the way. It's in the middle of the pack as I place this. Make sure you go and get that one especially, because that's a really good scenario. A really testing scenario as well from a skill perspective. So yeah, 7 scenarios for that if you count the workshop one. 6 scenarios for this one. I may re-record the last one that follows this, but other than that I have all 6 played. And then after that I have 6 London to Brighton. So I've now got 19 scenarios played. And if I were to release 2 every week, that's basically 2 months of content plus right there. So I could probably start editing these videos and start releasing these. And I'm going to get that going so I can at least get the channel going. I want to put some American Truck Simulator up there as well, because I have Euro Truck Simulator 2. I do have American as well, but Euro Truck Simulator 2. And I want to start putting that content on the channel as well. So keep an eye out for all of that. In the meantime, how far are we to Laramie now? Well, I took off a quarter of our journey just like that. Look at that. So, I think at this point the best thing for me to do is to concentrate on my driving, and what I can do is I can go ahead and bring up the path at Laramie. You're going to see about 15 minutes into the future here, but maybe 20 minutes by the time I get there actually. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go until I get to the curve. As you can see, let me take the throttle off so I don't see too much speed. There we go. So as you can see, I'm going to make my way up this whole track here. When I get to this curve right here, right around this point right here, I'm going to come back to you, and I will start chopping, or at least whenever I get to a double yellow. I think there's a double yellow coming up as well. I could be mistaken. But when I get closer to Laramie in some way, I will come back to you and I will talk further. So I will see you when we get a little closer to Laramie. Alright, I'm back with you, and we are now about 2.5 miles out of Laramie, as you can see. So I am fully expecting the next signal is going to probably give me some kind of direction here, because you can see it now coming into the hub right now. You can see the time is now 8 minutes after midnight, so midnight has been reached. I almost had one of those heart attack moments. I actually saw my speed hit exactly 41.0 miles per hour, and I quickly released the throttle, and thankfully did not catch me speeding. I am extremely fortunate in that regard that I was not caught speeding. So I carried on with my 714 points, and I can still maintain a 1,000 in Laramie as long as I don't mess up in there. So we're going to see what the signal up ahead says in a moment. Just bit my tongue there as well. That actually hurts. The dangers of doing live commentary, ladies and gentlemen. So I've been feathering my speed the whole way here, obviously. That's really all you can do. You can see we have a mix of 2 speeds coming up. I believe there's a 30 in there, so I am going to lower my speed for the junction, because that would be where the 30 is. I think the 30 junction speed is right after the other one, which is why you're seeing 2 numbers merge there. So the 45 therefore means nothing to us. I need to lower my speed actually right now based on this. There's our double yellow. I did expect a double yellow, so this is where our 30 is going to come into effect. Not at this signal, but the next one. At the speed limit, I mean. Meanwhile, we're a mile out of our turn checkpoint into Laramie. try to bump the brakes a little bit here to make sure we don't speed. And we're good now. So I can go ahead and I can power through at 30 now. There's our next signal at the Laramie checkpoint. That will be our junction speed, I believe. So maybe I'm wrong on this one. It's possible I'm wrong on this speed. Okay, apparently I am wrong on this speed. I don't know what that number is supposed to be. It's either 40 or 50, I'm not sure. But I still am able to go 40, so... But at this point I've already slowed down for the junction. It is at the next signal, so I might as well just stay at this speed now. Based on the current timing, we were supposed to get to this Laramie junction at 10 minutes after midnight. This is the closest I've been to 10 minutes after midnight. So I'm actually going to do fairly well on this stop coming up, but it still would have been considered late and it still would have been considered a failure. So it's still not possible. I did that about as well as you can do it. And I don't think it can be done. I honestly don't think it can be done. As we pass under... I don't think this is the highway. I think this is a road that connects to the highway. Through the weird connections that Sherman Hill's map has. We're now on a 0.5 gradient, so the gradient hasn't shallowed a little bit here. We're not going to get as much downhill force, so we do have to use a little more throttle. I do want to stay on the brake, because we are going to come into the 15 very, very soon. There's the junction speed, so I want to make sure I stay under 30 now. We're going to be going across the junction in just a moment here. I'll tell you what, while we're here, let's just take one more look at the map and look at our stop point. If I don't center on me, thank you. Whoops. I need to come in. Hold on, I'm not looking at the right stop point, am I? I need to slow down anyway, so let's slow down. I can release now. So the point I want to come in is right here, and I think it is this track. Is it that? No, it's not that track. That track. There we go. I thought I was going to screw that up for a second. So thankfully I made... Wait. Where are you sending me? Oh, yeah, I'm on the right track. Okay. I misread it. So let's get our speed back up. We did pass a lunar back there, by the way. I don't know if we're going to be able to see that now, but we did pass a lunar signal back here, and of course it's now all red now, so you didn't get to see the lunar signal. I was panicking about where I was on the map for a moment, but it looks like I am in the right spot, so we are going to be okay. That's the track I want to go down, so we're in the right spot. Alright, moving on. Had a little bit of panic there. So as of right now, in the original timing, we are now late. In about 3 seconds. We're now technically late. So yes, I've now confirmed the timing is not possible to make. It's very, very close. It's closer than I've ever had it, but it's still impossible. pretty sure this bugged out on me last time, so I'm going to keep an eye on the clock as I get this stop made, just to see what the game decides to tell me my stop is. Whoa, 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 down, 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 down. Wow. That's what you call pushing it. Whew! I got that down just in time. I'll be honest, I don't deserve a perfect score here, but I can still do it. Now we're on a flat ground now. Now we're back on a 0.2 gradient. It looks like it is a downhill gradient. Now looking at that based on the slight dip in the hill around the Laramie Misc West label on the map. On the original timing, we are going to now shortly be 2 minutes late. Let me see where the back of our train is. Still not in. Once it's fully in, I can stop anywhere in that yellow. And I think that yellow mark is to allow me to get fully inside the siding. As that's the signal ahead that was a lunar, so we just have to get past that and off the connecting track to the other areas, and we're good to stop. I'm going to play it prim and proper, but you can stop anywhere in the yellow. So technically you could probably stop before 19 minutes and still succeed the scenario. Was I gaining speed on level 1 traction? Oh, no, I wasn't. Okay, I thought I was for a second. So you could stop right now technically and be okay. What is that train? No label. It's nothing. Fantastic. So you can stop right now and you'd be fine. But I want to play it proper and get onto the track completely. And am I in the track completely? I might be in the track completely. Yeah, I think I'm in the track completely. So I can probably stop now. I'm going to give it a little bit longer into the 19-minute area. So yeah, now you can just stop. You have a large stopping area here. And now I'm going to go ahead and do it. Because you don't have to be all the way in there. You just have to be in there. I'm in there. The main line's over there. That train's carrying along. Track number 2 now, which we have vacated. So we are in good shape. So by the original timing, I'm now 4 minutes late. You can obviously make the stop go 3.5 minutes late, but by then you've lost all your points, because when you have a times 4 penalty on 180 seconds, you do the math. That's 720 points gone, just like that. And all you get is a check mark. And thanks for playing. I don't know how long the game's going to make us sit here, because again, I set the timing for 24 minutes. Which it turns out is plenty. I might move that back up to 22 or 21 before I publish this. You've arrived safely with Laramie despite the unusual circumstances. Tom and yourself have received a special commendation for your work. And there's 1,000 points. Yes, I edited the scenario. Yes, I had some speeding penalties, and I left the 300 in there. But I take the 1,000 however I can get it. So I've set up the edited version of the scenario. It is doable. I've proven that it can be done. And now I'm going to go ahead and bump a couple minutes off of the Laramie timing, because you should be able to do that too. 21:43 it says. I didn't think it was that late. Maybe I will leave that couple minutes on there, because that's a little bit of a freedom buffer then. I will leave those couple minutes on there. I'll leave the timing at 24 because now you know it can be done very nicely, very cleanly. I don't know why the timing goes up like that because it did it last time too, but thankfully I still got it. So we're okay. We can manage that. So with that said, that is our scenario for the updated version of Midnight Magnet. You can look at this one on the workshop. I will put a link in the description as to where this alternate version of the scenario is so that you can play this and get your successful run at this scenario if you ever want to get your fury and frustration out on the official version of the scenario. And I'm going to go ahead and say see you next time for Arrival of the Thunderheads. The only thing I don't know yet is if I'm going to re-record it or if it's going to be the existing recording. If it's the existing recording, I'm going to have a very angry review of this scenario, needless to say, about all the problems in it. But even if I re-record it, I'm going to be talking about all the problems in it because I'm going to review the entire DLC while we're taking that journey in the first half of the route. So anyway, I will see you next time for Arrival of the Thunderheads, and after that, we're going to see some London and Brighton most likely. I think I'll hold off on the bonus scenarios. So Arrival of the Thunderheads next time, and soon after that, about a week's time or so, I think from now, London to Brighton will be the next thing you see. So keep an eye out for all of that. I will see you next time. Until then, have yourself a wonderful day, morning, day. Can you tell us morning right now? Have yourself a wonderful day, evening, or night, whatever it is for you, or morning, at your part of the world. Thank you for watching. I'm Cyclone. See you next time. Bye-bye.